How does everything sound, y'all? No one should be listening, but hello, everyone. Does this sound okay?
Should let me
Hope
check
so.
on. Yeah,
As long as
I'm,
my mic ain't picking up any background noise, then that means I don't have to mess with the levels.
No, you should be fine. I hear nothing from behind you. I think you're good. Let me just kick my cat out of the room, and then we'll get a little more ready. Come on, bud. Let's go. Horrible. So get out. And let me post onto my Discord for all my small fan base. All right. Yeah, do you guys have any questions you guys want to ask beforehand before they get started, or are you guys feeling pretty comfortable with this?
no, as long as we're able to get video and video on your side, I think
Yeah,
we're cool. Yeah.
everything should be good. I don't see any issues we're going through right now.
Okay.
Everything should be fine. All right, we are now recording. I'm gonna do a little test demo. So Mark, you just talk for a little bit, just so I make sure this comes in okay.
Sure. I'm here. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, let me stop this and let me just download it and make sure it's okay.
Sure. Sure. I'm here. Test 1, 2, 3.
Wait, you're fine. Sounds totally fine. Perfect.
Cool. Cool.
All right, set up recording too. Charles is asking you to give microphone access. It basically refreshed the page essentially when I made new recording.
Oops.
It's not. It's fine.
There we go.
Because whenever you set a new recording, it like refreshes the page essentially.
Hello? Should I go into my little test spiel or?
Yours isn't coming with any errors. I wanted to check his. Now yours has failed, Mark. I'm not quite sure what's going on with you.
I have no idea. Do I need to refresh it? Fresh it again? Let me refresh. I'm refreshing
Okay.
right now. Allow audio playback. Okay. Is running health checks. I would start recording now for posterity. I mean, not posterity, but like it says it's in. I'm in. I just
Yes, now you're good.
Okay. Cool.
I think. Hold on. So we're gonna health checks. Hold on a second.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, now it's come back to a warning that a failure. So I guess it's gonna be okay for now.
Yeah, well. I see a record. I just see that you just recorded. So
Yes, so it should be good.
cool.
Worst comes to worst, we'll use the audio from the VOD.
We'll see.
Grip it and rip it, baby.
Cool.
Every project I've ever been part of, Tyler, it's just got like 500 warnings on it that we're like, yeah, I mean,
You kind of just gotta roll with it.
So let's just keep going.
I just realized that I have all my stupid stuff up right now. I don't think anyone needs to see my my stupid image slideshow of everything. Hello everyone. Hello viewers who are listening here at home via Twitch or otherwise. I'm Jeff Neighbors, and this is the Chasing XP podcast. This is our second episode, and we're still trying to work all the kinks on it. But today I have with me Charles Yu and Mark Anthony Rodriguez from VoxPop Games, which is a really cool game distribution and development platform. And if you guys want to tell us a little more about you guys, wow, I can't, I'm already blowing it. If you guys want to mention more about you guys, please go ahead.
Hi, yes, I'm Charles Yu. I'm the founder and CEO of VoxPop Games. I formerly did development myself, and upon noticing a lot of the pain points when it comes to trying to get the message out there and market your games, just like how difficult that is, I hit upon the idea of starting a platform that would help people market their games with our business model, which I'll explain a little more in a moment. And This is my partner, Mark. Would you like to give yourself an introduction?
I'll introduce myself. My name is Mark Anthony Rodriguez. I am the co-founder and chief operating officer of VoxPop Games. I've worked for the past going now 16 years in interactive multimedia entertainment, working with publishers, developers, indie devs, designers, marketers across the span of everything from games to video live streaming, and now trying to start this amazing venture to give more, to breathe more life, and to help this new indie game renaissance steer itself into a cool space with VoxPop.
I like how you said indie game renaissance because I really do feel like right now in the gaming industry, it's a huge surge of new games. Last night I was playing Celeste, which is one of the biggest indie titles of this year, last year. I think it came out at the end of last year. But like it really is a big renaissance of the indie game experience and indie developers coming out there. But how did you guys meet? How did this idea come to be between the two of you guys?
Well, we've been sort of running around in the same circles for some time. As I mentioned, I used to be doing development myself, and Mark actually had a talent discovery platform for independent developers called Grummo Works. That was his previous venture. And yeah, so we connected on LinkedIn, and when it came time to start this venture, I knew I needed a partner with sort of Mark's resume, especially when you're a young entrepreneur. A lot of investors, they like to see someone who's a bit more seasoned, has a longer repertoire on their
Hmm.
resume. Mark saw the potential in the vision, and here we are.
Okay. And what were your individual backgrounds before Vox Pop? I know Charles, you said that you've been doing development for a while and different things here and there. What kind of stuff were you working on?
Um, let's see here. I made one game was a one button game project for a it was like a game jam thing where they're like saying you got to make a game that can be played entirely by pressing one button. The title was Save the Prince. I worked on another small team project called Malwar that's on itch. Um, the project that I was working on that I actually haven't gotten to bring to completion yet because of Vox Pop.
It'll come. It's gonna happen. It's
There's
gonna
always
happen.
a bigger fish.
Someday, hopefully.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen.
I, it's weird to say that like even though I knew it would be a lot of work, I still underestimated how much work it would be to start a company. I kind of thought I would still be able to work on this, but I had a competitive multiplayer game called Agroculture
Hmm.
that I wanted to sort of bring to life. Yeah, like I said, one of the reasons I set out to start this company was because looking forward to advertising agriculture and just thinking about how previous projects basically got like no traction, got me thinking about longevity when it comes to making indie games and how I can help improve other people's projects' longevity.
Okay. And how about you, Mark?
So for me, it seems, well, I'm checking on other things. Sorry. For me, I've been all around town with AAA gaming. Started my career with Rockstar Games, working on first title was The Warriors for the ancient PS3, and
Was it a
last title,
PS3 game? I thought it was a
yeah,
PS2
oh
game.
no, PS2. Sorry, PS2 and
Okay, so I'm not going crazy.
I'm showing my age. PS2 and X360 helped launch the X360 with them. Final game with them was Max Payne 3. So worked on as a game analyst for them, which is pretty much an everyman. It's QA, production, marketing. It's just an overall
Mm-hmm.
title entitled game analyst. Um, Worked with them from 2005 to 2010. Then 2010 went to California to work for Capcom USA. Helped launch the Xbox One and the Dead Rising spin-offs with Case West, as Dead Rising 2, 3, Street Fighter franchise, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, and beyond. Last titles with them were working on early props for Resident Evil 7 and the new remakes for 2 and 3, and then got into video streaming with Major League Baseball, which then evolved into Disney streaming services. But prior to that, I did a stint at a company to help launch the Arc Games platform. So this is not my launching VoxPop with Charles is not my first venture in launching a game
Hmm.
platform, but this is not a free to play platform. So Arc is like the free to play response to Steam. So it's through Perfect World International. I was there for about a half a year working with them to get the legs off the ground. And then I sort of was exhausted after dealing with platform streaming and gaming. I took about a half a year off, and then Charles and I, like he mentioned, we were in the same circles. I was extremely interested about this because I was working for my consulting agency, Grummel Works, pretty much doing exactly what we're doing, advocacy for indie devs. And we wanted to bring the opportunities that I didn't have as an indie dev, Charles didn't have as an indie dev, to any and all indie devs that are out there. We know that itch exists. We know that all these other, Game Jolt, all these other platforms exist, but they're not doing quite as much as we're trying to accomplish with VoxPop.
Okay, awesome. So this is going a little off topic for a little bit, but at you, Mark, as someone who's been in this industry for such a long time, how do you feel like it's changed since the days of the PS2 and the Xbox 360 to now? Do you think that
Ripping and ripping,
that
baby.
crunch is a bigger problem for developers, or is it still coming down and trying to find more creative ideas, or what?
So the large and small answer of this is indie games fuel the AAA business. Indie games are the ideas that they take for every single game that is out there, every big
Mm-hmm.
budget game. Tonight, right now, Cyberpunk just went live, so everyone is gonna try and find all the little knickknacks and all the other sort of game mechanics
Right.
that are found in indie games that are just not giving their just desserts, as you would say. So crunch culture, all that stuff, I could go into a completely different podcast about that, but um, what the way that I see it evolving over the past 16 years now, or 15 going on 16 years now, is there's more of a shift in culture to have um, more more expansive experiences regardless of gameplay time. So you don't have to necessarily have a truly deep and enthralling experience, but have to have it last months and months and months on a game that you're playing. You can have it in these sort of micro styled games. You could have really, really enjoyable gameplay experiences without
Mm-hmm.
having to dredge through that. So the whole crunch culture, the whole 500-person teams, 1,000-person teams, that's all great and it serves its purpose, but we can't forget where all of those people have come from, and many of them are independent game developers. Many of them are going to suffer because of COVID and maybe perhaps be unemployed and might start up their own game studios or game collectives and hopefully find a home with us, so we can advocate for them and we could really share these cool ideas with the world.
Thank you. That was really good. I really really appreciate that answer because we were talking before about I was playing Celeste, which is one of the best games out of last year, and sitting back and thinking of all the games I've played in the past, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years, a lot of it's indie titles, and a lot of those titles are getting a lot of recognition, but nowhere on the same level as things like Cyberpunk, for example. Um, I'm gonna blast through these questions because we already asked a couple of these. Do you guys want to explain how the profit share system works for Vox Pop games?
Yeah, certainly. I could also comment on what you said earlier if you
Please.
like, but we don't necessarily have to.
No, go ahead. We got plenty of time,
Yeah.
buddy. It's good.
Yeah, so the profit sharing system, I think it segues really well to talking about getting indie games attention, right? You mentioned that a lot of indie game titles are very great, but they don't necessarily get the same attention as their AAA counterparts.
Hmm.
And the real answer as to why is marketing, right? So in AAA titles routinely burn millions of dollars on just advertisements and not even development itself. One particularly extreme example might be Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, uh, with its $200 million advertising budget and only $50 million development budget, right? Um, Indie developers can't compete with this, right? Many indie devs are even solo devs, right? They
Yeah.
they just got like money in the bank. Where are you gonna spend it, right? Um, so where indie devs have traditionally gotten a lot of traction is with streaming. Um, but as there's more and more money coming into streaming, it's going to be harder and harder to find streamers where you can just go up to them and say, "Hey, here's a free copy of my game. Please play it."
Right.
Right? Because a lot of these streamers, they're also having trouble keeping their channel afloat. They want sponsorships. They want to keep the lights on.
I
Right?
as a very small streamer, I completely understand both of those sides.
Right. Like, and maybe you even want to help more indie devs, but it's just that's not going to pay the bills necessarily, right?
Hmm.
But a perfect demonstration of the sort of disparity that can arise from having stream traction of streamers and not really having any streaming is Among Us. Like, did you know Among Us is 2 years old?
I did, but I didn't know that
Yeah.
until after the game exploded in popularity.
Exactly, right? How many
Ah,
people have heard of Among Us 2 years ago?
Right.
Right? It's got 85 million downloads now. You would
yeah.
have never dreamed of that back in 2018. And the difference is because quarantine happened, streamers picked it up, got big with streamers, right? And that's how powerful having this kind of attention is. And indie devs, they just don't have the money to pay for it up front. What the profit share system is very simple. It's a promise, right? The devs set aside a percentage of their game to serve as user incentives. And anybody who helps that game get sold, they get that percentage as a share. Um, as well, developers can
Grip it
also
and rip
assign
it, baby.
specific percentages to specific users. And we envision this being used as a way to approach streamers and say, if you play my game for your audience, I will give you, a fourth of it, a third of it, or half of it, even, whatever, as compensation. I can't afford to pay you up front, so we're going to backload it. Every
Hmm.
sale you generate from me, you get your fair share. Um, Now, you might ask then, why do they need VoxPop to do this? Why couldn't they do this themselves? And the answer is threefold. One is accountability and trust. If you're a streamer, right, and I'm an indie dev, and I tell you I'm going to give you a percentage of my sales, how are you going to trust me that I will actually give you what I owe you,
Right.
right? Um, and meanwhile, as a streamer, where am I going to acquire the accounting skill necessary to figure out how much I actually owe you,
Hmm.
right? How do I track uh, which of my sales come from you, what I owe you, right? And finally, third reason is just convenience. We automate the process, and that way developers just don't have to handle it. It can be out of their hair. So at the basic level, that's really what the profit share system is. It allows developers to engage streamers, and it allows people with an audience who might not be streamers or YouTubers that a developer would reach out to necessarily, like bloggers, for example. They can still engage and they can still recommend those games to their friends or family and still get a cut. That's all it really comes down to.
It's an organic affiliate marketing strategy that is enabled by our entire client platform. We're still deving it, we're still, beta testing it, we're still in open beta, but we're gonna get the kinks out, and it's gonna the way that we're planning for growth, it's gonna and expansion and scaling, it's gonna really, really be something special.
Okay. Who were your first developers for VoxPop games, and how'd you convince them? How'd you sell the idea to them?
Uh, well, when it comes to selling the idea, I think it really is easiest to sell the idea to developers, right? Because developers have experienced these pain points firsthand. I don't need to explain to them that they don't have the marketing dollars to compete with Activision, right? They've seen it.
Right.
Uh, and really it just becomes a matter of explaining to developers, how does our model help you? How can you use our model to leverage, uh, spend that you don't have yet, and why we care about you and we want to help. Um, so yeah, I think among all the people we've spoken to, developers, small publishers, even investors, right, or streamers, I think developers are actually the easiest people to convince.
Yeah, some of our earliest onboards were worldwide devs and also devs that had to do with our local New York. There's the New York Game Makers Discord. There's Playcrafting and Dan Butchko's operation for Play NYC. So some of our first we were already a sort of global international entity before we even got out of our closed beta.
Yes,
Uh,
a D-trick.
yeah, there's Adrian Dietrich and the Dietrich Library. Amazing games, lo-fi games, low poly games, insanely addicting. He had
Definitely the best seller.
yeah, he had a lot. He had a large following on Itch, and we invited them over to bring all of his collaborations and all of his insight into indie gaming to our early platform inception. It's still one of our big sellers. One of his games, Guardians of the Dino Forest or Golf Short.
Hmm.
We have Windy Games out of New York. We have Attack Mountain out of New York. And we have Hamra Digital out of New York, all part of the Playcrafting and Play NYC family. They were all early adopters. We were going to the pre-pandemic. We
Of
went to
course,
yeah, we went to PAX
pre-apocalypse
East,
times.
pre shut it down. Um, we went to all the Play NYC events. We went to PAX East, pretty much the last PAX. I've been to over 15 different, no, around 15, 16 different conventions.
Hmm.
And I think seeing what we saw at PAX, I was even mentioning to Charles, it was the lowest I've ever seen it. The smallest viewer, sort of attendee count. There was still, this was back in early March, so there was still not this whole mask thing, but there were people actually wearing active masks
Hmm.
before we got this whole spike in early April. I don't think we're going to return to that anytime soon. I know we are and we will, but I don't think it's anytime soon. So we're doing a lot of digital conventions and online conventions. We're still heavily entrenched in the New York, sort of New York metro area, northeast sectioning of
Hmm.
indie game development. We reached out to a bunch of people from RISD, Carnegie Mellon, the Boston, the sort of Boston area, Boston Game Makers Association. So we're trying to put a foothold and an imprint on northeastern independent developers because one, pre-pandemic they weren't given shine as much as like the Silicon Valley or the mid Texas region, Austin region, or Seattle, the upper west Seattle region for just for game development has been big. So we wanted to sort of stay out of the saturated Bay Area and West Coast and bring it back east. Charles, Charles is an NYU alum. I'm an NYU native. Charles is an NYC guy through and through. It's not even adopted. I know he's New York through and through. So we wanted to maintain as close development ties with our partners going into our closed and then open beta. But now, once we're in open, the floodgates are open. We have developers all over the place: Brazil, Belgium, like I said, France, Poland, Afghanistan, South Africa.
Wow.
So that if you look on the client, you'll see devs from all over the world. And it's something that I could not have imagined as early as we are, but we can only hope for more growth, more expansion, more diverse games, more diverse people coming in and playing and enjoying and developing and partnering with us.
Okay. I want to go back to naturally part of the VoxPop Games platform encourages streamers to stream the games they're playing. But one thing that I've found in my years or so of streaming is that there's a lot of streamers out there who have little to no audiences. How do the small streamers affect the platform overall versus the big ones? And I don't mean the big ones like Forcin and the ones who are pulling in over 10K views, but the smaller ones who are under 50 viewers. How are they impacting the platform, and how can they get impacted in return with VoxPop Games?
So One of the things about VoxPop, like I said, is that for every single game, developers have to set a universal percentage, and then from there they can negotiate specific percentages with people. That universal percentage means no matter how tiny your audience is, right? You know, heck, even if you're not even like a streamer or whatever, you're just talking to your family. You can convince, you can still get a share of the sales that you are responsible for generating, right? And so what this means is, maybe your channel is considered a little too small for um, game companies to be worth cutting individual sponsorships with, right?
Hmm.
However, if you have a small audience, chances are you might actually have a better engagement rate with those audience, right? So if those people are making purchases, um, you can still uh, help keep your channel afloat. One way that I think, let me draw an analogy. It's like asking people to donate to a Kofi, right?
Right.
Or get on your Patreon or something. I think a big barrier to that. There might be a lot of people who like your content, but maybe they don't feel like, or at least don't feel strongly enough about it to contribute directly to like a Kofi or something. Some people might very well have the attitude like, oh, well, I can get it for free anyway.
Hmm.
So why do I care? But if you say, hey, listen, this game that I've been playing in front of you, if you're interested in it, if you can buy it from this link, then you'll be helping me out at the same time, right? So I see it as sort of like a coffee that people can get something out of, and so people who maybe otherwise wouldn't have been willing to donate or engage, maybe now can.
Okay. How?
We've also,
Go ahead.
sorry, I just wanted to
Oh,
double.
sorry. One thing that I forgot to mention is that we also do have a sort of are trying to build a community with a directory that has badges that designate people as streamers and developers. So it's easier for streamers and developers to find one another and to network, so that instead of uh, trying to leave a comment somewhere that they may very well never read, you might actually try to connect with them directly on the VoxPop platform. But yes, the go on, Mark.
The smaller devs tend to have more of a loyal like viewership rate, followership rate. So when you were mentioning earlier, Jeff, that you have a small followership, you're pretty much a prime example of what a Vox Pop streamer is. We
Hmm.
have over 60 Twitch affiliated streamers that are affiliated with our platform. We have over 6 actual Vox Pop sponsored affiliate partners that actually play games for us, that they get to choose their games, and then we pretty much advocate per month how much time they're going to dictate, pretty much doing what they were doing anyway to maintain their affiliateship. So what we want to stress is, with the number of streamers that we have and the small size that we have, it matters in so that the viewership and followers are over 15,000, just starting as of right now, and an
Okay.
open beta in an open beta phase. So amongst all the 60 Twitch YouTubers, we used to have Mixers, but Mixer got shut. So they moved on to Twitch. We have Trovo. We have people that are on Trovo. So we have people that are streaming video games or playing games. And those people choose to play our games and advocate for them as a VoxPop affiliate streamer. One of them is a prime example of how the success rate of this little fella from the Wavern realm. A huge shout out, one of our Discord. He became one of our Discord mods. Has a very loyal fan base. Has over 100,000 views and viewership. Has been doing Twitch streaming for many years with himself and his wife. Has been a great advocate. Has been in all of our tournaments, all of our online events. Amazing person. Has a
He's
director.
currently in the Twitch stream right now.
Oh,
Actually,
there
he's
you
been he's
go.
he's been
That's
commenting
that's
the entire time.
I can't even see it. He was waiting for the shout out. So with that said, huge shout out to everyone that is joining out. We'll do shout outs at the end, but it's just the Brooklyn in us. So 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 with that said, Charles always likes to to promote the fact that although these streamers, these micro influencers, might not have, the hundreds of thousands, we have a whole bunch of ads that were built out by one of our streamer social media managers and social media, um, sort of social media interns, that advocates for the fact that although you're not a streamer with hundreds of thousands of followers, The VoxPop platform is here to support you, to promote you, to advocate for you, to push your streams wherever we have, regardless of if you are affiliated with us directly or indirectly. But if you are promoting the titles of the developers that are partnered with us, you are going to most likely get a bigger uptick in viewership because the entire community is going to rally around your stream for that moment or that
Right.
event or that game. So yeah, that was pretty much the tail end of the spiel. I wanted to cover what Charles always says in other podcasts that we've had.
I don't know if you guys have access to the information or not, but what does the for Twitch, for example, what does the viewership look like for some of the more popular games on your platform? Because obviously, one of the biggest things for streamers who want to stream is trying to figure out a good balance between viewership for who's watching that game and who's engaging with that game at the same time.
Okay,
Sorry if I'm putting you on
so
the spot for that one. It's a
yeah,
tough
I'm trying
question.
to I'm trying to pull up stats for it right now. But probably the biggest game would be Under Depths of Fear.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually one of our partnered games with Rogue Games. So Rogue is a very very important partner for us. It's one of our first publishing partners, not the first and only, but it is one of our important partners. Everyone's important, but their
Of
game has
course.
what I would say a triple I caliber viewership. Um, when you look at the way that the game is, it's a survival horror game with like mystery thriller. That viewership of when that game launched, we actually did a whole bunch of promotions and cross promotions with our streamers to basically have them advocate for that game before that game was being advocated on Steam or the other platforms that it launched on. So I think it's only on us. I think it's on VoxPop and Steam. I don't know yet if they've gone anywhere else. I'm not really paying attention to that. But what I am paying attention to is the metrics that our streamers saw when they were streaming a horror. Mind you, it went live around Halloween time, so
Right.
people were looking for Halloween streams.
It is a spooky
Uh,
season.
yeah, so I would say around 100,000 total viewership and for that title. So that is directly tied to all of the streamers that are categorizing it on Twitch. So I know Hank the Hippie went live with it, Josh Scorper went live with it, Grape Goose went live with it. I'm naming all of our sort of streamer affiliates, and
Mm-hmm.
they were getting a bigger uptick from not necessarily like Fortnite numbers, but bigger uptick from the games that we were advocating than ever before. So what we advocate for our developers to do and give them guidance for is to categorize their games. If they're not injecting their games into categories, they're going to mess up their SEO, they're going to mess up their viewership. So we need them to categorize their games so that we can find them on Twitch and then advocate them on Twitch. YouTube Gaming really doesn't have that. Trovo has it, but Trovo dumps all their so it's like just a raw live stream.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that we're working, everything is gamified. I did a TED talk about gamification, but everything is gamified. So you have to sort of you have to play the Twitch game. And the Twitch game here is to utilize as a developer all of the tools that would benefit people that would advocate for your game. And that's what the entire VoxPop platform is about. It's about teaching people how to do that. And it's about trying to advocate where other platforms just aren't. That's not in their prioritization.
Okay. Now, does the VoxPop platform actively teach these developers how to market their games and how to do these things? Or is it more of like we're going to plug the game in here and hope it takes off kind of thing, like it is for Steam?
So we are teaching all these people, in our Discord, on our socials. We do try to give people instruction and give them our 2 cents about how
Okay.
we feel that these things should work. However, one thing that I should point out is we are still in beta, and mm, I guess sort of the trappings that surround our basic business model have changed several times according to people's feedback. So we introduced, for example, the external linking, I think only a month and a half ago, not
Yeah.
too long ago. Um, and so previously to that, there wasn't a single directory that you could send people to Kofi style, right?
Mm-hmm.
So while we do give a lot of people instruction and advice, That's not baked into the platform yet because nothing's set in stone yet. We are still testing, and we value all of the feedback that we get from our streamers and our developers.
Yeah, we have flexibility in that nature to sort of cater. We have a feedback section in our Discord. All the Discord links pretty much are linked on one entire database of everything, so we're tracking everything. Analytics wise, it is beneficial for us to gain more tools to be able to advocate and sort of build out tutorials. But I
Mm-hmm.
think our tutorials are marketing tools. Where our biggest advocacy points now are LinkedIn, Twitter, and TikTok. So building TikToks to teach people how things work is actually working. And we're trying to expand on it in different ways. Our social media manager, Holly, and myself, and our social media intern, Connor, we're all trying to like say, what's the next step? What's the newest thing to try, not to latch onto, but to try and learn from so that we can use every tool at our disposal now since we're in lockdown to pretty much make VoxPop easier to use, more friendly, user friendly to use, and pretty much do what other more mainstayed, Steam is a 17-year-old thing and they're still evolving, but
Right.
some people might say they're de-evolving in the fact that they have so much stuff, and they have the card game, and that's like a stock market. So what we're trying to do is change the dynamic of what we can do with the tools that we have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, you know, a tool is a tool, and we feel this one isn't terribly difficult to understand intuitively. Um, the difficulty would lie in not, using the profit percentage or, not negotiating that with people necessarily, but finding the correct people and figuring out how best to communicate with them. And we try to set people up where we can. And at the end of the day, uh, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. I guess you could think of it almost as like a hammer. It's not terribly difficult to understand how to use a hammer.
Right.
Uh, the hard part might be finding places to use the hammer. No, that's a terrible analogy. Forget what I
You tried. You shot your shot. You did your best.
He shot
said.
his shot.
I'm sure you get what I mean. I'm sure you
Yeah.
get what I mean, right?
Myself with a
The,
hammer.
the whole I'll give you a percentage of my title if you help me get it sold. I don't think it's hard to understand, right?
Right.
It's like a
That's
sponsorship deal when you don't have money up front. Uh, you know.
think about this hammer as a passive marketing tool. It's a
Mm-hmm.
passive adjacent marketing tool that people can use without even knowing that they're using
Yeah,
it
like
just by.
we
That's where I cut off here for a second. So let's change up a little bit. How did the new podcast with the indie game business come about for you guys?
Oh, so that's taking place on Friday, right? So
Okay.
this week is their winter conference. So we've been communicating with them for the past couple of months now on their Discord. We've been a part of the Indie Dev World Order group. We're like I said, we're in as many. We're past the limit of Discords that we can be in terms of indie games.
Right.
So that came about just by reaching out and talking to people. We've been on a bunch of podcasts throughout the year, starting from our closed beta, no, pre-launch prototype, closed beta, open beta, and gonna go hopefully beyond. So that's coming this Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on their Twitch channel.
Okay.
But that came about from basic business development. We're trying to communicate with as many developers as possible to use our tools. We know people are automatically going to go to the bigs. We can't stop anyone, and our platform distribution agreement doesn't stop or gate, and there's no gates there to go wherever you want. It's just we have tools and our revenue share is different, and we're trying to advocate and give more back to the developers and also give back to the streamers that are promoting and publicizing these games for them.
Right. Maybe this. I don't want to push numbers at all, but is there an example of a number for your average affiliate streamer to make through your platform as of right now, or is that still like too high and low on either end?
Uh,
I feel like we are. Let's see here.
we're gonna have I wish we'd have pulled up numbers. From what
I don't want to put you on
from
the
what I'm
spot.
no, no, from what I'm seeing at our usership, uh, users could stand to make enough by using the platform in general to purchase one title every 3 months, because
Okay.
that's what we're testing around. So our games, our most expensive game is $40. Our
Mm-hmm.
lowest price is $1. There's no freeware games. So if you're streaming and advocating and you purchased a game and you're advocating for that game, you might have an opportunity to purchase at least one game within 3 to 4 months, I would
Okay.
say, average. Because I made on VoxCoin, I've made about $1.50. So once we initialize the purse, so that you can start doing purchases of using your in-game revenue, in-game currency,
Mm-hmm.
your profit margin, your profit share, to purchase games on the store that you don't want to spend money on, you just want to use your coin purse,
Right.
then be able to, with our current metrics, be able to purchase one game every 3 to 4 months. So that's what I've averaged just from our internal testing. But like I said, we're still in. We went from closed beta in in May to open beta in July, and now we've been in open beta since July.
Yeah. So
So within that, there's been a bunch of different things. I was trying to give Charles some time to look up metrics, but we've had ups and downs, but it hasn't gone past that. I'm sort of assuming. I don't think I'm off.
I'm sorry we didn't come prepared with those
that
numbers.
that 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 came out of left field. That was on me.
What I do want to say though is uh, while I could give you what they've been so far, I think it might be a little early anyway for a couple of reasons. The first is because we just introduced the ability for people to actually give custom percentages.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, it was a planned feature that we just hadn't developed yet. And so every single game was set at 3%, I believe.
Okay.
Right. So it's undoubtable. And that's our minimum, right? We literally put it in writing. That is the minimum you could set your profit share percentage to. We may change that, may lower the minimum, may raise the minimum. We'll have to see. Um, but I think it's undeniable that the vast majority of developers would have set it higher than literally the minimum.
Okay.
We've been
Uh,
we've been asked by a bunch of devs to possibly start gauging. We're building the tools to gauge that so that devs have total control. But we're going to cap that as well, because it's going to flip a bunch of algorithms and things that we have in the back end that we need to test efficiently, so that when we get
Right.
to find. So
the
uh,
second reason that I think it would be a little early, anyways, as you may recall, um, we have been changing the way streamers sort of communicate these to their audience occasionally. And it was only a little over a month ago that we added the directory link, the external link. So as we move forward, we will be introducing ways to make it easier to engage the audience, and we'll also we'll have to see what comes of the tool we just introduced for developers to change how much they're paying out.
Okay. Awesome. How do you guys see VoxPop's games changing and evolving in the next few years? Are there any limitations, whether it's with the platform or the industry, that you want to see change?
Okay, so when it comes to the question about the industry, this is a very important distinction. Are you asking about where I hope things will go, or where I actually think things are going to go?
I'm okay with both answers.
oh,
So, so where I actually think things are going to go, at least in the near future, right? I think current trends are just going to continue. As we've seen, development costs are exponential, in no small part due to the marketing, not actually to the internal development. Um, when people tend to market games, right? They tend to push sort of the same features that are easy to demarcate,
Hmm.
right? Graphics, for example, right? We are quickly reaching a point where I mean, I'm going to be honest. When it comes to graphical fidelity, I don't really see the difference with my eyeballs unless I have a literal side by side.
Yeah, I
Right?
understand what you
Why,
mean for
why do
sure.
I why do I care? I don't care if your hair has individual physics on it. I don't care if your skin has subsurface scattering on it. I don't care if you have three artists working on
Oh
the
man.
shaders for this character's forehead sweat, which
Oh man.
some studios probably do,
Yes.
right? There's a point where the graphical fidelity realistically doesn't mean a whole lot to your individual consumer, but that's what they push, right? Because you need metrics that are easy to differentiate. You can say that this was better than the last time because we have X number of polygons, X number of shaders, X number of whatever,
Right.
right? And that is important to consumers because they want to feel like they're getting a better product. And as long as it continues to be true that consumers will place value on these metrics, it is also going to continue to be true that developers are going to have to keep spending more money to deliver on those promises, right? Equally true is marketing. When you're a piece of media, when you're a content creator, you're not just competing with other content in your genre. You're competing with every single piece of content that people could potentially be spending their time doing instead,
The
right?
waterfall.
Right.
Publishers aren't competing with other video games. They're I mean, just competing. You know, they're competing with movies. They're competing with film. They're
Right.
competing with even
Sports.
other art forms that are gaining more popularity. Right. So uh, so the more media there is, and there's going to be a ton of media, the more money that studios are going to spend on it. Now, and that's why the costs have been exponential. Now, I don't believe that's going to be continue forever because their profit margins, um, their actual profits are going up, but their profit margins are going to be lower and lower with this scheme, and you're just going to get to a point where you can't actually afford to keep going this way. And so, where the industry will eventually go, and where I hope it will go, is there's going to be more emphasis on uh, smaller, better products that maybe don't have the budgets in the hundreds of millions, right? But that are tightly designed and good experiences. I hope we'll see a return to more big company sponsorship of experimental games,
Mhm.
right? Like the kind that that game company makes, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I hope that so obviously these days we see more and more smash indie hits, right? Um, Among Us, the Untitled Goose Game, Fall Guys, games like
Celeste.
Undertale was made basically by one guy,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So but the thing is, though, those games are few and far between. They are very much outliers.
Yeah.
Um, but they prove that there is more and more interest in the kinds of experiences they represent, right? These are games that don't deliver on graphical fidelity or the same kind of um, uh, there's got to be a better term than audio visual feedback, but like the polish, the same kind of polish that
Claymation real.
AAA games have, right? Um, but they are experimental and they deliver experiences that AAA games don't want to risk, right? I hope that these big hits will encourage people to look more into smaller indie games, the kind that maybe don't go viral when they go looking for these kinds of unique experiences. That's where I hope the industry is going to go. No, that was a little long-winded. As for where VoxPop is going to fit into it, uh, um, I believe that there is a lot of potential in VoxPop, not just because not just as a storefront, um, but also in the other verticals that we want to expand to. Now, as a storefront, I do believe we have quite a bright future ahead of us. Spending on indie games is going up. And while it is true that those smash indie hits, like I said, are outliers, um, overall, there is more and more attention going towards independent games. There's more and more development going towards independent games. And I believe that supporting indie devs has a good long term outlook. But where I think we're really going to shine is the other directions that we want to expand. Um, we want to expand into creating alternate methods of crowdfunding. I'd be happy to talk your ear off about that if you want to hear about it later. We want to expand into internal development, start kickstarting our own games, like polish off the 3 or 4 like half finished products I've got sitting
Yeah,
around
we're,
and
we're
actually
gonna see,
work on them.
we're
Uh,
gonna see agriculture is gonna be a wave. So don't even worry about it, Charles. Do not
did I
worry.
even say
Agri-
anything about agriculture besides
yeah,
that?
that was you started. You started with it.
I totally forgot to say, probably totally forgot to actually talk about. Anyway,
I,
that's not the
I
point.
I think that
The
was
point is,
before we start the
there
recording.
are a lot of different
Yeah,
spaces.
yeah,
There are a lot of different underserved spaces that we want to expand to. We want to pick up a lot of the slack that big game companies have left behind for indie devs, and that's where I think our future is in 5 years.
Okay, Mark, do you the same question to you essentially? Do you agree?
Charles covered. It's not just the coining of it. I'm not a yes man, Charles. We've spoken so much about this ad nauseum. We're in the same state. I hope and pray, and I don't want to say I know, but the trends are what they are. They are evolving in such a state that there are no more games in the history of mankind that are being created than within this year.
Right,
So there are more games that are going to be underserved, and VoxPop is here to serve, to help, to advocate, to promote. My list of games for this year for GOTY are pretty much out of the ballpark. I normally do like a medium article where I write about what were my favorite games or my top 10 games. About 75% of those games are games that we found and we put on our platform. And it's not just a self promo. I genuinely would have played those games in any other circumstance. And yeah, Charles, go ahead. I know you want to
Speaking
say
of,
something.
I
Go ahead.
remembered a very big thing for the future of the industry that I actually totally forgot to comment on until Mark's answer.
Yes.
And it's that as game design tools become more user friendly and more widely available, and as more people grow up playing video games, there's going to be more and more interest in development and more and more interest in independent development because people have their, everyone has their own visions, everyone has their own design doc. And it's not an easy thing to just say, give up and become like a cog in this team, right? But
right,
the more these tools get easy to use, and the more it is possible to um, find people to help pick up the slack where you would be unable to. Like for example, in my own games, the thing I dread most is making art assets because you always need more of them than you think, and that just takes forever to draw any of them. Well, you can contract that out, for example. Just like commission an artist to do sprites for you, right? The easier it becomes to do stuff like that, the more development there will be. And I do feel like, especially with, um, I don't want to say people of my generation because that's
Oh no, making me an old man.
but
Making
like
me the old man again.
like people younger than me, coming into college or whatever. I feel that game design has, in many people's eyes, become kind of a glamorous career in the same way that a lot of people think working in Hollywood is glamorous, right? Now, the nitty gritty reality, maybe not as glamorous, right? But the point is, this is something people aspire to now, where that
right.
wasn't the case necessarily even, 15 years ago.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a game developer, and then I opened a book of C++, and I just put it back on the shelf. Couldn't do
You,
it.
you don't even need C++ anymore, right?
Oh, man.
Like, open Unreal's got Kismet, visual
Yeah.
scripting. That's like a new thing, you know?
Yeah, listen. This was back in 2006. I want to be a game developer. Found a big book of programming. I was like, nah, closed it.
Let me give you a little. Let me give you.
Well, if you ever pick it back up, C sharp is easier than C++, and
Yeah.
Mini is free.
I learned C plus in high school. I graduated from a technical school in Manhattan. It's just outdated. They don't even use it anymore, much less go back to it. So I have a bunch of
Right.
useless knowledge. A little pro tip for anybody is watching live and is going to watch the VOD. I got my job going into Rockstar from Lance Williams. for recognizing the fact that you don't have to have a game development background to do game development.
Hmm.
Uh, I graduated with a philosophy degree. I'm very technical in my upbringing. I have advanced certifications in other areas for technology, but my main undergrad was in philosophy. And it turns out that many tech companies now, for all these big corporations, are looking for developers that have philosophy backgrounds because they're more open-minded, they're more able to encompass and not be so myopic with their vision and have an all-encompassing view of where trends will go up and down, and visualize different circumstances where people might close doors automatically because you don't have a specific background, and
Hmm.
you'll be more akin to make bets on people that will in fact surprise you, and doing things and experimenting with things. The things that make these AAA studios so successful is taking the secret sauce for any RDR or GTA or any big budget, Rockstar, Capcom, whatever you name it, big budget, is they are taking every single item from every single game that is going unrecognized and mixing it up enough so that they don't get, there's no IP infringement there, and
Right.
implementing it into higher systems of game development. The reason why VoxPop and the reason why I wanted to partner with Charles is I wanted to stop that. I saw that abuse happening, and I still see it to this day. And I want to stop that to make sure that developers that publish their games, develop their games, own their IPs by being on our platform are able to make more games. The goal here is not to be a one and done or a flash in the pan, make one indie game and I blew it and it went on Steam and it took a nosedive. I
Hmm.
don't need that. I don't need people to go on short sales on Steam every single summer or winter sale. What we need is sustainability in the independent games industry, because the independent games industry fuels the rest of the industry.
I
That's
like
it.
that.
That's
That
that's
that
my.
that was really well done. We have one question from the audience. Lil
Oh,
Fella wants to know, what is the one thing that surprised both of you guys with how Vox Pop Games, when it first launched, to where it is now?
Let's see here.
Tough one, apparently.
Well,
it's so
very, very
open
good
though.
question. Where it's like there's so much you could cover that it's hard to organize your thoughts in a way that's coherent. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I don't want to put. Don't do a metrics one. I don't want to do
Yeah,
metrics are so
I
garbage.
don't. Well,
What
you
about the
know,
numbers?
um,
if
let
I
me go first.
well, this
I'll go
whole
first.
pandemic thing took us completely off guard, but that's probably not
Yeah, I think everyone had that same
where the question
experience.
is going. Okay, so let's see. In terms of Vox Pop, let's see. One thing that surprised me was, oh, jeez, all these are so boring though.
Let me go first and think about it, and then you'll jump
Yeah.
kick.
Let them marinate for a little bit.
Number one thing that surprised me is the overall developer support and streamer support. So the main goals that we're trying to accomplish are being accomplished. It may not be this huge, fantastical number or whatever. I don't give a hot shit about anything. What I care about here is that we are inspiring in some way, shape, or form through this platform, through this plague that is happening, the understanding that you can also you can also do this.
Hmm.
It's not just Steam, it's not just these other established things. You should be able to be inspired by the fact that a small ragtag group of passionate people are crafting a new way of trying to get indie devs, streamers together and to advocate for awesome pieces of art. That's the thing that surprises me the most, that we're at this space now and we're just getting out the blocks. We're not, I don't even think we're out the blocks. I think we're just getting like the engines roaring and the fuel to the fire to then hit the ground running. That's my biggest surprise. The support, the overall support that we've seen from our community, and it's growing day by day.
Oh,
Come on, Charles.
The only thing I can think of, everything I can think of is a total downer. I don't know if it's just the headspace.
Hey man, it's 2020. There's a lot of downers out there. It's okay to share some
Mark,
fails.
We were supposed to launch on 420. We
Mm.
had to delay a month because on 420 in New York,
it wasn't even like nobody got on our team got COVID or anything. But it's just like half the services we relied on, there was no support anymore.
zero.
You know, like for a month, they just turned off half the services we would have needed, and it just coincided just in time for us not to be able to launch. And then it took over all the news, and like, how are we going to advertise, right? Like, we can't
Right.
get the word out anywhere. And it just, there's all these like things you would have thought, you never would have thought it would have impacted an internet business at all. And it's just things you didn't think about until it happened. What I was going to say, please stop me, Mark, if this is
I got you, bro. I got
way
you.
off message or brand or like just
No,
ruining
don't
everything.
trip. Don't trip.
One of the things that really surprised me was just how tough it is to get on the ball as a small business. As a big business, we would have so many more resources to deal with so much of the crap that we've had to do. A good example is with the Windows Smart Screen, right? So whenever you download a file, right? Windows Defender checks how often that file has been downloaded by other people who use Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer.
Mm-hmm.
And if there aren't a whole lot of people using Internet Explorer to download your file, it gives the user
Well, yeah, they shouldn't.
File not commonly downloaded. Well, actually, the top banner reads, Windows protected your PC. Ugh.
Yeah, it's that misleading information.
Files not commonly downloaded, and you have to click an option that says like advanced options, and then you can click run anyway, right? And then you can report that it's not malware, and enough people report it, you won't get that warning anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If we were a bigger business, we could just have like half of our employees, we could have a bunch of machines, we could have a VM running on Tor downloading this thing like thousands of times. Warning gone. There might even be a backdoor in Microsoft somewhere if you have like a connection.
Greased palm.
Get into contact with them half the time, right? Here, we don't have any recourse. We submitted our file to Microsoft Security Analysis. They looked through all of our code, straight up told us we can't find any malware here. People still get the warning, right? And because people get the warning, they're not going to install. And because they don't install, the message doesn't get back to Microsoft that this is not malware.
It's one of those egg chicken.
We've managed to build an audience anyway, thank God. But it's just made it exponentially harder in a way that it wouldn't if we were a large corporation,
mm-hmm.
right?
So the surprise.
There's so many small frustrations like that.
I think we hit a nerve there with that one. That was somewhere deep.
Charles was part 1 and I was part 2, but we did like the reverse prequel sequel. It was Charles was giving you, I was giving you the surprise. The surprise is that it's still growing, that we sign publishers, that we sign developers, that we're signing streamers, that we have the support that we have people in the chat, that we have people treating our games like some kind of weird esports event. The fact that we've had a golf tournament. We're going to have a racing tournament with Cygnus Pizza Racer. We have exclusive titles. We have titles that we're going to come out with.
I do love some racing games.
Awesome stuff. Check out Long Play Games. Another shout out. But yes, Charles, what was a surprise at the end of all the bad?
Yeah. Sorry for being the downer. And I do want to say, Mark's right. Even in spite of all these like negative things we've had to face, we are still building an audience. We are still there. And I am thankful for all the support that we've gotten.
One more question from the audience. I'm sorry?
We're still in CERT, so we're just waiting to just jump through as many hoops as Microsoft can deal us. And then we have to deal with the Mac OS and the Apple. I don't know what. That's a whole nother bag of worms. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
One more question from the audience. We have my mouse died for a second. That was cool. Attack Mountain Brain Drained. Sorry if I butchered that. Asks, when do you plan on starting to help seed new developers as a publisher, or are you already doing that?
Our internal games.
It just says new
No,
developers, so either one.
in terms of funding, um, that is going to have to wait until we break even. I'm just gonna, you know, just got to be honest with you, right? It costs a lot of money to develop this stuff,
Of
and our
course.
team, we're already quite lean as it is. We just can't afford to. I'm not going to insult you by pretending that in a week or 2 weeks we're going to start sending out $100,000, $200,000 contracts for
There's no
developers.
car under my chair. We're not playing Oprah right now.
No, not
Uh,
yet, bro. Not yet.
however, however, while we won't get there for at least some months, right? I've projected our break even at maybe 6 months after launch, right? While it may take some time to get there, we will get there, and once we get there, we will be looking to help developers fund.
Yep. That goes into the micro investment engine stuff too. That was one of our verticals that we're talking about that we've spoken about on previous podcasts, but that's part of our verticals
Hmm.
besides internal dev and funding and publishing.
All right, awesome. Well, I've got nothing else to ask you guys. Do you have anything else you guys want to say before we wrap it up?
Yes, one thing I do want to say. I should have tacked this on to my previous answer. But while we won't probably be able to directly fund a lot of new development quite yet, I just want to reiterate that we will continue to do absolutely everything we can to support new development in other ways that don't necessarily involve direct funding.
Okay.
But yes, in terms of becoming a publisher, that's sadly going to have to wait. Okay. Aside from that, no, I said everything I needed to. The longer I'm here, the more I'm gonna stuff my foot in my mouth.
No, 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 no.
You're
Oh,
doing
I do love the
great.
taste of that foot.
That's our CEO. Our
Better cut it
CEO,
off.
our CEO is not doing that. My last spiel is, of course, the Brooklyn shout outs. Amazing, amazing shout outs to our over 126 total games that are live on the storefront and plenty of them to come that are
Wow.
unannounced. We have unannounced titles. We have unannounced exclusive titles. We have unannounced non-exclusive titles that are available all over the place, and we have titles that are coming in a made-for capacity. So the made-for VoxPop games are sort of SKU variants where they have semblances of exclusive content that are found within the games. So I want to give huge shout outs to Long Play Games, Adrian Dietrich, Edward Atkin that signed over the week, Hummus Man, Sorab Hama, everybody that's come out to support us digitally. We would be in the streets if there wasn't any plague, and it would be a totally different story. We might have over 126,000 games rather than the library that we have currently, but like I said, slow and steady wins the race.
Of course.
So shout outs to Attack Mountain. Big shout outs to Lil Fella, all of our associate and affiliate streamers, all of our sponsored streamers. Look out for Long Play Games and the Cygnus Pizza Race event that's coming a little bit in a couple weeks. Look out for season 2 of the exclusive title for Cygnus Pizza Race. Look out for Pixels Hollows Evil. It's an exclusive game. And thank you very much to Tech Leader and to you, Jeff, for hosting us, I
Yeah,
guess. Thank
thanks,
you
Jeff.
for
Not a
seriously, thank you for
problem.
doing it.
Very,
If you
very
ever,
happy to have done this. It was a great conversation.
if you ever want to hear me complain about big business offline, just
That'll be the after hours podcast.
Shout out to Wendy Games. Shout out to Greystone Games. They launched their Kickstarter and they're only going live on us and Steam. And they passed their Kickstarter, so that's another success. If I'm gonna come out with a year-end blog that says all of the success stories. It's gonna start with Charles's clip of "We have to deal with Microsoft." And then it's gonna
okay. Well, all right. Let's not do that.
no. But listen, nothing in life that was worthwhile was easy. This has been extreme. This is the most extremely difficult thing that I've ever done in my career. It's not going to end anytime soon, so we just got to keep pushing. Big shout out to Alicia Augustine, our development and engineering team. Connor Holly, our social media manager. She's the QA, the marketing, everything that we're doing internally. Shout out to our external partners and everyone, Rogue, Quasi, all of the other streamers that have been involved. A huge thank you to you guys, and check us out on our socials, voxpopgames.net, and everything else. I'll drop you the link tree, and you'll be able to check things out.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time, guys. That was great. Hope you guys have a great night.
Thank you, Jeff. Take care. Be
You
safe.
too, guys. I'll do my
Be
best
safe.
out
Stay
here.
healthy. Stay healthy.
Doing my best. All right. Thank you, everyone else who, wow, my screen is hella bright. For those who don't know, I don't stream super often anymore. Nope, still wrong. Cool. Self view, that works. Nope, still bad. Cool. Well, thank you guys for coming out. I really appreciate it. If you guys aren't a fan of the podcast yet, we are ChasingXP. You can find us at techlater.com. Our first episode will come out soon. And that's it. You guys have a great night. Thanks for coming out. Have a good life. Have a good night, a good life, the whole 9 yards. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for the love. And have a good one.